I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Every failure is a step to success. If you're doing your best, you won't have any time to worry about failure. Do not fear mistakes. You will know failure. Continue to reach out. Success is often achieved by those who don't know that failure is inevitable. You make mistakes. Mistakes don't make you. Failure is a word that I simply don't accept. If you're not failing every now and again, it's a sign you're not doing anything very innovative. It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. A man can fail many times, but he isn't a failure until he begins to blame somebody else. Failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure. There is no such thing as failure. There are only results. Ambition is the last refuge of the failure. Success is not built on success. It's built on failure. It's built on frustration. Sometimes it's built on catastrophe. Failure is always an option. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you have failed by default. The guns and the bombs, the rockets and the warships are all symbols of human failure. Indecision and delays are the parents of failure. Failure happens all the time. It happens every day in practice. What makes you better is how you react to it. We failed, but in the good providence of God, apparent failure often proves a blessing. But man is not made for defeat. A man can be destroyed but not defeated. I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Mistakes are the portals of discovery. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. There are some defeats more triumphant than victories. It's best to have failure happen early in life. It wakes up the phoenix bird in you so you rise from the ashes. My fault, my failure, is not in the passions I have, but in my lack of control of them. Failure after long perseverance is much grander than never to have a striving good enough to be called a failure. Success comes when people act together. Failure tends to happen alone. Do not blame anybody for your mistakes and failures. My life has been nothing but a failure. You always pass failure on your way to success. I think and think for months and years. 99 times the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right. A failure is not always a mistake. It may simply be the best one can do under the circumstances. The real mistake is to stop trying. Failures, repeated failures, are fingerposts on the road to achievement. One fails forward towards success. Success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive. Do not be embarrassed by your failures. Learn from them and start again. Remember that failure is an event, not a person. Age wrinkles the body. Quitting wrinkles the soul. Through perseverance, many people win success out of what seemed destined to be certain failure. The season of failure is the best time for sowing the seeds of success. For every failure, there's an alternative course of action. You just have to find it. When you come to a roadblock, take a detour. If at first you don't succeed, failure may be your style. Failure is not a single cataclysmic event. You don't fail overnight. Instead, failure is a few errors in judgment, repeated every day. Our best successes often come after our greatest disappointments. Before you can win a game, you have to not lose it. I fell off my pink cloud with a thud. I hate to be a failure. I hate and regret the failure of my marriages. I would gladly give all my millions for just one lasting marital success. We have 40 million reasons for failure, but not a single excuse. When I was young, I observed that 9 out of 10 things I did were failures, so I did 10 times more work. Failure is a detour, not a dead-end street. I don't believe in failure. It is not failure if you enjoyed the process. Do not let your ambitions become a sanctuary for your failures. Failure is not fatal, but failure to change might be. It is not a disgrace to fail. Failing is one of the greatest arts in the world. The surest way to fail is not to determine to succeed. You cannot climb the ladder of success dressed in the costume of failure. One of the common failings among honorable people is a failure to appreciate how thoroughly dishonorable some other people can be and how dangerous it is to trust them. The most important of my discoveries have been suggested to me by my failures. To establish true self-esteem, we must concentrate on our successes and forget about the failures and the negatives in our lives. I wasn't afraid to fail. Something good always comes out of failure. Defeat may serve as well as victory to shake the soul and let the glory out. Success isn't permanent, and failure isn't fatal. Never walk away from failure. On the contrary, study it carefully and imaginatively for its hidden assets. The young think that failure is the Siberian end of the line, banishment from all the living, and tend to do what I then did, which was to hide. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Often, the difference between a successful person and a failure is not one has better abilities or ideas, but the courage that one has to bet on one's ideas, to take a calculated risk, and to act. Failure is impossible. Success and failure are equally disastrous. All the world loves a good loser. Show me a good and gracious loser, and I'll show you a failure. We may be personally defeated, but our principles never. There are many victories worse than a defeat. Restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man, and I will show you a failure. Success is never final, but failure can be. It would be great to be able to pass on to someone all of the successes, the failures, and the knowledge that one has had. To help someone avoid all the fire, pain, and anxiety would be wonderful. You will be a failure until you impress the subconscious with the conviction you are a success. This is done by making an affirmation which clicks. All human actions are equivalent, and all are on principle doomed to failure. The great question is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with failure. If you learn from defeat, you haven't really lost. It is wise to keep in mind that neither success nor failure is ever final. Notice the difference between what happens when a man says to himself, "I have failed 3 times," and what happens when he says, "I am a failure." Man is not made for defeat. Don't be afraid of failure, be afraid of petty success. The wisest of the wise may err. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. There could be no honor in a sure success, but much might be wrested from a sure defeat. To err is human, but it feels divine. There is no failure except in no longer trying. Sometimes the best gain is to lose. Losing is no disgrace if you've given your best. Don't be afraid of missing opportunities. Behind every failure is an opportunity somebody wishes they had missed. The person interested in success has to learn to view failure as a healthy, inevitable part of the process of getting to the top. Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery. The things that will destroy America are prosperity at any price, peace at any price, safety first instead of duty first, the love of soft living, and the get-rich-quick theory of life. I think you can have 10,000 explanations for failure, but no good explanation for success. The world is divided into 2 categories: failures and unknowns. Success represents the 1% of your work, which results from the 99% that is called failure. Success is the result of perfection, hard work, learning from failure, loyalty, and persistence. A life which does not go into action is a failure. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man, and I will show you a failure.